You must know me by now, but just in case, I'm Pascal Pachaud from Formation Continue ULLL, which is the continuing education foundation of the University of Lausanne, and EPFL, two institutions that share the same campus in Lausanne by Lake Geneva, or Lac Léman, as we say here. Today, we again have a very interesting group of participants. As we won't have the time to introduce everybody, you may want to add the name of your city before or after your name. To do that, you click on the three dots on your picture, or you go to participants, and there you can input that name. Thank you also for closing your microphones when you are not speaking. You can always write your questions and comments in the chat, or raise your electronic or real hand in Zoom. We can also make pauses to address questions. After the presentation we had yesterday from Suzanne Dennett, I thought it would be appropriate to do a little warm-up exercise. If everybody could switch on their cameras, that would be very nice. Excellent. If you can switch on your camera, and we have a very nice weather here in Lausanne today. It's really blue sky with absolutely no cloud. This is really nice, and I wanted to ask you the question: what is the weather like in your country? And so, who has got sunny weather today? Can you raise your hand? We have very, very nice weather here. Who's got cloudy weather? Cloudy, okay, couple of people. Who's got rain? No rain. Who's got snow? Snow, okay. Valentina's got snow. So we can see that we have all sorts of institutions represented today, and all sorts of weather too. This week we are interested in learning and sharing about how to weather the COVID-19 storm, and discuss how it may impact university continuing education in the aftermath. The types of programs we offer, the format of these programs, the financials, and so on. Today we have the great pleasure to welcome Professor Van Baalen, who I will introduce in a minute. But before, I wanted to remind you that tomorrow we'll continue with a short presentation, and on Friday we will have a panel discussion with all the presenters of this week. You can ask questions during the whole week on a Google form we created, and to try to encourage you to come until the end of the week. And on Friday, just to let you know that on that day, we will discuss also concrete steps for institutions and yourself. Concrete steps once the COVID storm is over. So let me now introduce Peter Van Baalen, who will give us a presentation on the digital transformation of Leroux universities during coronavirus crisis time. Peter is professor of information management and digital organization at the University of Amsterdam. He is also the education director of the College of Economics and Business of the Faculty of Economics and Business of the University of Amsterdam. And he is a member of Leroux, which stands for the League of European Research Universities. He is a member, more precisely, of the Leroux Digital Education Policy Group. Just as an introduction, I was mentioning to Peter just before we started today that I came across a document which I think I was not supposed to see. It was really some preliminary results from a survey Peter will tell us about. But when I saw that, I thought, oh, we really need Peter to be here during this week, because these are really extremely useful information. So thank you again, Peter, for accepting our invitation, and the virtual floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Pascal. Thank you for having me, and it is a great honor, of course, to have a talk with you, of course, and sharing our ideas. I will share my screen because I have a short presentation, if you allow me. Can you see it? Yes, is it okay? Okay.
That's fine. That's fine. Perfect.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so yeah, what I will share with you is the research we have started. We, as members of the Lero group, Digital Education, we were already working on a paper called Digital Transformation of the Lero University until the COVID crisis broke out, and we quickly decided to change the theme or the topic a bit, in the sense that we still wanted to write and doing research on digital transformation, but the setting, of course, and Pascal was already referring to that, there is a kind of a storm, and we are in the midst of the storm yet, and perhaps we now see some light at the end of the tunnel. Now there is a vaccine or whatever, but we are still in the midst of the storm. And doing research in a storm is not an easy thing, of course. So you have to. It's kind of a moving target you are looking at. But that's what we decided. So we want to monitor and doing research on probably the most dramatic transformation of the universities in recent time, and of course we want to share our thoughts and the findings, of course, with our colleagues. The League of European Research Universities, most of them are the more older, traditional, bigger universities. Like in Holland, it is Amsterdam, Utrecht, and Leiden. In the UK, you have Cambridge and Oxford. In France, you have Sorbonne. So this is the type of universities we are talking about. So what we did, we set up, we designed a kind of research which consisted of 2 steps. First, we want to send out an open questionnaire as soon as, yeah, I think it was only 3 or 4 weeks after the announcements that most of the campuses closed down, because we want to know what are the measures the universities were taking. And we also said we will send another survey out to the university, but that will be done in August. And what I will share today is just the first research findings. We haven't finished the research yet, especially we are still waiting for responses of the second survey. There's a small team, so that is Jan Haarhuis from the University of Utrecht, Laura Keusemans from the Lero office, and Professor Helle Mathiassen from Copenhagen, and myself. We developed this. I have been working as a researcher already in the past on crisis and the role of information. I did research on the SARS virus and how universities, but also the research labs were organizing themselves. So I had a little bit of a background in this type of research. And we said there are, a framework consisted of 3 dimensions. So preparedness. The way you respond to a crisis is really dependent where you start from, of course. Do you have a solid technical infrastructure? Do you have leadership? How are you organized? So these are really defining the way you can respond to a crisis. So that is important. That's also what we wanted to know. Then another second is how, who is taking the lead in organizing this transformation? Is it very, in most of the universities we are looking at, but I guess also in your places, universities are mostly very decentralized, organized, so that it's not easy to direct from the top how to move on. And it's the third dimension is the foresight. So what is the direction of change? And I think in this type of crisis, it is very hard because you don't know what is the end and how the end will look like. That's why the people that are leading this change, this transformation, need to imagine a kind of a direction and kind of an end state. So that's what. So these are the three dimensions which we based our survey on. So this is here, you can see the preparedness. So we asked for the technical, organizational, educational, there's a typo I see, and the strategic preparedness, the transformations. So I think you also have seen that we had to make new rules for the exams, for working at home. What are the principles for giving online education, but also the time horizon. So what is your decision as a university? When will you open up again, etc.? What are the differences? So we had a set of dimensions also with respect to the transformation. Finally, and that's what I call, that is, what is your foresight? How do you think you will end up at the end of the crisis? What is the direction of change? There is a lot of answers, so I jumped to the findings, and we can discuss this. When we talk about for the Leer universities, the infrastructural technology, so that is the enterprise systems, the administrative systems, the backbone, so to say. This, in most cases, didn't appear to be a big problem. Sometimes, of course, there was a lack of server capacity, but that was easily to scale up. Sometimes the VPN connections need to be improved, but that didn't appear to be a very, very big problem. From the organization, how we start, of course, there is, especially then we looked at where is the expertise on digital education, and that is there was a big variety. Most of the universities had a kind of a center near to the head office of the board, but there were others, like we in Amsterdam. We don't have a central office at the board level. We only had very local at the faculty. Centers of expertise, centers for blended learning, like that. So that also implies, of course, that the transformation was organized from a very bottom-up type of approach. In terms of educational preparedness, so there again was a lot of variety in terms of different types of platforms, tools that were used. And of course, they had to make a transition from their very different landscape as a starting point. For all the university, there was no preparation, no university, whatever, was in a way prepared to such a crisis or whatever. Of course, they had emergency rules. They have crisis teams or whatever at the central level, but also at the faculty level. But no one was really prepared to such a, what you call, Pascal, a storm. I think that we go to the transformation, and that was a very interesting, I think, to look, because most of the universities didn't have time really to discuss it with their colleagues, and they had to make the rules on their own. And that's what they did. So they made new rules for exams, new rules. Many universities, or some universities, use proctoring, online proctoring, like we in Amsterdam. We need to find it out how it works, and well, we have to learn about privacy, etc. There are new rules for exams, for working at home, for an netiquette for students if you participate in online education. So if I look to Amsterdam, every 2 weeks we receive new rules how to conduct in online education and working at home. The time horizon, there was quite some differences. Some of the university announced in a very early phase that they will close down till the summer. Others were quite open. As I look at my own faculty, we decided in a very fast, already in April, that we will continue with the online education till the summer holiday. And the reason was that we had about 50% of our students is international. And so we need to make sure that they could continue to follow the courses and to take the exam. That is the reason why we announced very early that we will keep on teaching online till the summer. We didn't find very much differences between the masters and the bachelors. We did find many differences between the different types of disciplines, but that makes sense, of course. If you like medicine, you have clinical education, dental education, the vet education, or sciences use labs. They want to go to the campus, of course, while disciplines like economics, law, of course, they don't need to come to the campus. So that there was not a very big urgency to come to the campus. The technology landscape was quite diverse. Again, there's a lot of variety in the tools that were used, but also which type of tools were acquired, because some of them wanted to learn more about peer review. We, for example, had a big deal with online proctoring, using an AI tool for this even. And so there's a kind of invasion of new technology in a very short time. And again, who is leading the transformation? There's also a big variety when it comes to the organization. In some cases, there was much more directive, much more top-down compared to others who didn't have a kind of infrastructures. So they had to facilitate a very bottom-up type of process. So what are the concerns when we asked about the foresight? So there was a serious concern about the inequality, because we cannot assume that all students have the similar extent of access, have the same equipment, that they all could use and can get access to the courses in the same way. And we, but also that's also what we learned in the research. There were many complaints, of course, by the students. There was big differences in terms of study delay. Sometimes the exams couldn't take place, while other universities, for example, by using online proctoring, could prevent a study delay. The big concern, of course, was about the well-being of students and staff. I think that this sounds very familiar to both of you. The lessons, I think what we saw is innovation took often place at a very individual basis. Many teachers were innovating on their own. And that is, of course, very interesting. So what we did, but also we saw it also at other universities, they, after some months, they were collecting all those best practices in order to bring them together and to share them with the rest of the faculty. I think the most important thing was communication. If you have to do everything online, there is no chance you can meet on the campus or whatever. So you need to be very, very, very clear. And I think most of the complaints were about communications about exams, about schedules for the courses, etc. And a big lesson, of course, was that the teachers need support. In terms of impact, I think it was my place, but I saw it also at other universities in terms of academic performance. The academic performance of the students was actually quite good. There's no real significant difference when you compare the grades with a year before, and that was strange. There could be all kinds of courses. Of course, students complained that they were not satisfied with only online teaching, but in terms of performance, it was quite good, I must say. Academic development, yeah, I come back to that later, because for the new academic year, there was a huge need for support to get everything online. More at the strategic level, that's because we mostly asked the vice rectors, the vice provosts of the university. There was no strategic thinking, and now most of them start think in a strategic way about these type of crises. So the second questionnaire was about how did the university start their new academic year. And I think one of the most intriguing and most important questions was how to make use of the campus if you can only make use 20 to 30% of the capacity of the campus. So you need to make choices, and so when most of the universities have chosen for the first year bachelor students, and of course that is a good reason. These are the newcomers, they are not familiar with the academic culture with the campus, so they want to make sure that there some extent of socializing could take place. On the other hand, there was also a priority given to what's here in the fourth bullet, clinical fields. Those students that had to make use of the equipment or special rooms, of course, they need to give a priority to those students. At the same time, that's also what we learned is that students in second and third year were complaining about the fact that there wasn't so less activity for them on the campus. So that's we need to reconsider again if we still keep to these priorities that were where we started initially. I think one of the biggest challenges was how do you organize social engagements, because it was clear that you can follow the courses online, but for most of the campus universities, studying is not only about taking courses, but it's also get to know each other, learning from each other, from student to student, but also meeting, having interactions with students and staff. So there is a large variety of examples how universities were able, or at least attempted, to organize social life between students. That's and here it's just a few examples that we came across. I think what I just said is that during the first year of after the COVID-19 outbreak, there was a lot of innovation, and but there was also a lot of uncertainty. And I think most of the universities started in a more planned and programmed way the new academic year. So they learned the lessons, they put them into new formats, and they were organizing for teaching support, help desk, workshop, training tools, etc. Helping them with the online exams. So there's a lot of support given prior to the start of the new academic year. And there was here on the slide, there's a quote. So those people who were not very familiar and didn't have much affinity with technology, even turned into enthusiasts in the sense that they learned that it can work very, very well. So that was, I think, nice to see how they learned to work with the new technology. I think in the end, there's students, almost all students indicate that there's still a strong preference for synchronous education. Is it online or offline? So they want to have it. And I think one of the new things, hybrid learning courses, hybrid learning programs, hybrid learning facilities, lecture rooms. This is quite new, and I think this is in many universities are experimenting and innovating with these new types of hybrid learning. That's new. Finally, raising the question to what? Well, how do you think in the end? What is the post-COVID lessons? So how will you continue after the crisis is over? And there are two types of response. Some of them said, well, we go back to normal, to a normal situation. We take some lessons, of course, we learned during the COVID crisis. And that's what I call digitalization, in the sense that you apply new technologies without changing the process. That's and a good example is, of course, making use of recorded lectures. It is the same. So whether you look them from a screen or in class, it doesn't change the process of. And there's also what I call digitalization, and that's when you really change the whole process or the whole educational activity. And this is the quote below you see, and that's I think most of the university think that they will return to normalcy, but that they take a few lessons they have learned. But that's what I call digitization. But there were also a few answers. Sorry, I go to the next one. For example, this one is some people really believe, some universities really believe that things will change in a kind of a dramatic way, and that the typical all-in-one place approach, as we have it right now, will change. So there's much more student mobility. Is it offline, online? You can take your courses at different places in Europe, and there's a big I think one of the biggest things that perhaps can be speeded up is the virtual student exchange. You now already see many different initiatives in Europe and platforms by which students can take courses from different universities. And I think that will be speeded up. I think that the problem here is there are too many initiatives right now, so it becomes quite fragmented. And we need to have a common standard. We need to have one type of platform. I think there's a big learning also in terms of European collaboration. Here's a nice quote: "We duplicate far too much. Why create many versions of something like Economics 101? I think that is a big challenge, of course, for us all. We need to think how we can to make use of these type of courses in a more efficient way. Well, I guess you all aware of the Digital Education Action Plan by the European Commission. I'm really waiting for the big initiatives, but also the money and the stimulating power that comes from this action plan. And finally, there is a kind of concern that was also expressed, and that is the rise of edtechs in the market of higher education. And that is we have bought so many new technologies in just a few months. And it's not only the technologies we use, but there's also a lot of new providers in the market. So there's a new sellers markets, so in higher education. And that can become a kind of a threat, and that's what I call the attack dependency. And I learned that there are quite a few researchers tracking and tracing this type of development. People like Ben Williamson in the UK, but also a few people in the Scandinavian countries. And I think it is interesting to follow these people, or to start doing research in this area, because if we continue to keep online education in this way, we will become heavily dependent on technology and technology providers. Finally, I have been focusing on the Leru, but I think I'm completely aware, of course, there is also another world. I think we have very good technical infrastructures, and we were able to make this transition in a reasonable, smooth way. Of course, there are many complaints by students and staff, but compared to other countries, I think we were able to do quite a good job. And that's not for every university the same, especially when you look at the developing countries. So I think that we should be fortunate in that sense, and happy that we could manage it in a quite decent way. And that's here I want to stop my presentation and want to thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Peter. Such a rich presentation. What strikes me in a way is how well universities dealt with this storm, with this situation. Really interesting to see the way you looked at it from kind of a helicopter view, looking at different institutions. We've heard a lot of stories within one institution, but it was really great to have this this view through your survey. There are quite a few comments and questions on the chat. I think that instead of me reading them, I would rather maybe ask the people to do it live, maybe starting with Suzanne. I think you had a few comments and questions.
Thank you, Pascal. Peter, that was a really incredible presentation. I so enjoyed it, and I could talk to you all day about it. And it is amazing, actually, when people said before, say for exams, oh, these couldn't be done online. You know, for example, I work for a university in America, and we have comprehensive exams before students enter into their doctoral research. And before, everybody said, oh, they have to be taken in a classroom for 12 hours, just sitting there. And then overnight, we almost transformed these exams to online and take-home exams. And so it's sort of interesting how it's possible. And it'll be interesting to see whether we continue with that or whether we do go back, you know, and I think we should make some changes too. But my question is, Peter, when you started your research, did you already have the connections with the other universities that you did the research with? And, you know, how easy was it to approach them and them open up their universities for you to do research with them?
Yeah, thank you for your question, Suzanne. So, well, the LERU is a network that exists for quite some time, of course. I have been a vice provost of teaching and learning myself in my own university. There is also a network of the vice rectors and the vice provost. So I think from this very network, because it is only within this network we did the research, it was easy to connect to even the highest level. So we asked the vice provost and the vice rectors to fill out the questionnaire, and that was, of course, we in the end for the first questionnaire we received 16 responses, open questions from what is it? Total 23. And I think that is quite good, because the open question, it takes a lot of work. It takes even, I think, more than an hour to fill out. So if you receive those responses from the very high level of the university, I was quite satisfied with that. So, but because we are working in an existing network on a relatively high level, it was not easy, I would say, but we were able to receive those responses.
Yes, you knew the right people to go to open up the doors for you. That's great. Thank you.
Oliesia, I think you also have a question.
Well, dear Peter, thanks a lot for a wonderful report. And I would like to ask one question. I work at a Russian university in the city of Kursk. And I would like to ask you, how do you motivate your students? Or were there a research of motivation of the students? Did the motivation of the students to study online changed in comparison to usual education?
Yeah. Well, I think I have a slide. Thank you for your question. I presented, I think, 1 or 2 slides about it. It was a serious problems, I think, during the first months after we closed down, and I think because it was quite new, and I think it was not easy, but students were quite motivated to finish their courses or whatever. I think the motivation was much more problematic when we started the new year, because especially because you have new students in your first year, and those students we didn't met, so we have introduction days, etc., fully online. What we did, but that is only my own experience, but I saw it also at a few other places. So there were all kinds of social engagement programs. We at my own university, my own faculty, we had social mentors. And social mentors, not partly they were on the campus because we have some space on the campus, but for our international students, we also have them on the line. So the students meet each other and they could make friends. There's also a buddy system. There was now, and I had last week I had a brainstorm session with students and some of my colleagues. What can we do also for the second and third year students? And that was really nice because students came up with very nice idea. For example, a kind of a virtual building in which you have different rooms in which students can get together to listen to the music, to look at the Netflix movie or whatever, or to study together. But it's kind of a house you have, and you have different rooms, and they can come together. So all this type of initiatives, it's not. Of course, it's not the same as being on the campus, but at least you try to compensate for the loss somehow.
Thank you very much. I was asking this question because, well, I teach at a medical university, but I teach English. Well, it's not anatomy, it's not physiology. And first, when this online learning started, many students thought that, well, it's like a game, it's something easy, but then there was a real need to motivate them. Well, thanks a lot. Thanks again.
Okay. You're welcome.
It's a very interesting point. If I could share my screen, I would do it, but I can't. I would show you that the biggest newspaper of the French-speaking part of Switzerland has got this title today, "The Big Blues of the Students," which are another type of victim of the COVID. And they just say that the experience of the first lockdown enabled university to develop technology, but that students are really suffering at the moment.
Yeah. True.
We had another comment, a question from Katarina Popovic from Belgrade. Katarina, if you want to.
Yes, thank you very much, Peter. And thank you very much, Pascal, also for mentioning this title page of the newspaper. That's exactly what we feel also here in Serbia. And Peter inspired also further discussions on that. Thank you for the inspiring presentation. You know, the experience of Belgrade University is doubled. On one hand, we find out that we could do very much by using this technology, much more than we knew that we can, much more than we expected us that we were able to do. But we see, on the other hand, a really huge problem with some aspect that I mentioned in the chat, like this concept of embedded learning and the possibility to develop critical thinking and thinking out of the box and similar, to develop, you know, this social engagement of scholars, this approach. We really face difficulties with that, especially in the humanities. I can understand, for example, in Olesia, that in medical faculties, the problem is how to teach some important practical skills. On the other hand, you know, we face with the difficulty how to develop these skills, like I wouldn't even call it skills, like critical thinking and creativity and open-mindedness and so on. And I participated in several UNESCO's webinars recently, And I'm very disappointed by the advices they give. They engage these big companies like Microsoft and so on to give us answers. And, you know, basically the answer is gamification. Do organize some games and engage some nice tricks, you know, and so on. And then you will motivate students. Well, it's a short term. It might help a little bit, but it does not really help to fulfill the main mission of the university, to develop really, to help to support development of the people who will be able to critical think, to reflect, to challenge, how to take people out of the comfort zone. That's not what you can do with the games and the small digital tricks and so on. And I would really, exactly as Suzanne, I would like to join Peter or similar researchers in really exploring this aspect that is highly neglected. And I'm afraid on a long run, the main university mission will suffer from that. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, Katarina. Well, I've been last week. I've just finished a short paper on what is the impact of digitalization on Bildung and so. And I've looked into the research, and it is not easy. I must say it's not that there's no easy answer to that. And I haven't found a solution here. So that's really what we need to find out. If it is possible, perhaps because there are so many complicated issues here. For example, the issue of psychological safety, which is a very, very well-known concept. Do students feel safe when, like in a meeting like this, you see the faces, you see where people come from sometimes? Are they feeling, and it could also be the case that some people that in a normal classroom don't feel very safe, are more now feeling more open. So depending on the character, or perhaps also whether people feel more safe in an online environment, while others perhaps feel more safe and open to raise issues in an offline. So I don't know. I think that there's much to learn, and especially much to research. So if you have any research in this area, I'm more than open to read it, because this is a kind of a new area, I think.
We keep exploring, we really keep exploring and try to do with some blending activities. You mentioned safety, which is very important, but I would also add the sense of belonging. And when I say belonging, I mean belonging to the intellectual community or critical thinkers, which is especially in the parts of Europe, like Eastern Europe, it's still very much needed because of the raised authoritarianism and, you know, the governments who are using the COVID-19 crisis to violence human rights and freedom of speech. So we really need, especially in teaching adult education, that's what we do at our university. You really need scholars who are socially engaged, who will organize the reactions, who will teach people, who will even protest and organize some activities in the public spaces and so on. So we are now deprived in this area, and we are trying to find opportunities to bridge till the moment that we will go back to some kind, of course, of a new normal. But I think that's the real challenge. Exactly in the times of lockdowns and so on, this is the function that we need even more.
Yeah. Well,
so let's explore together.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. This topic has been talked a lot about since Monday, I have to say. This kind of, support, mentoring, and all these things. So there is really something there that we could discuss more. We had a couple of comments from Emilia Kramarenko. If you want to take the floor, maybe to ask your question or make your comment.
I will keep, hello everyone, I will keep my camera because my internet connection is playing tricks. Thank you so much. It was so interesting, everything that you revealed. My concern refers probably to the strategic approach of the universities. We did our best. We tried to survive somehow. And it would be so interesting if you can do like a follow-up of your research, and let's hope on post-COVID era we'll figure out if we learned enough, or if we can actually make the great use of the digital techniques instead of just playing the tricks as you mentioned before. In my university, we had plenty of discussions concerning the excessive use of digital and too much entertainment, and a little bit too much on that. And my question refers, if you can share with us any kind of initiative in your university that was focused on teachers and researchers, because they are it's a little bit weird. We expected digital support to reduce the workload, but in our case, sometimes it's just doubled. And the teachers and researchers are complaining about the overload, excessive exposure. They have to be live too much. They have to be there, available every day. So if you can share anything that was focused on academic stuff, any kind of support for them. We do a lot for the students and we want to do plenty of things, but we are lacking new forms of engaging teachers and researchers in continuing everything online.
Thank you. Well, two things. What I want to say, of course, but then I'm talking more as a education director, having all those staff working on new courses, producing new course material and of course they are pushing me also and raising this type of question. One simple thing, of course, that we need to compensate them in terms of hours or money or whatever. That is what we do at least. It's not, of course, sufficient. It is not enough, but at least we have a kind of a gesture. Say, okay, well, you do a lot extra work, of course, and we compensate you with hours or money, whatever. The second thing, I think that is more important, is that you as a school or as a university, you have to decide how you will continue after the crisis. If you say to the colleagues, well, you have to redesign your course and produce new course material only for 1 year, then of course he or she will not say will not be very motivated, of course, to do that. But if you say, well, this will be the future, you will keep on teaching, but in a quite different way compared to the current situation, then of course, then people are more motivated to redesign the course than when they know that this is only for one time. I think, and that's why I'm pushing very much also when we talk about transformation, about the goal. What is the direction? Do you go just back to normal, meaning that all the things you have learned so far, you do away with it, or you want to benefit from that? And so that also the teachers know that they are investing in themselves. I'm always comparing here. There was a time we couldn't make slides. We had to learn how to make slides in the department. And for me, it was quite new, and it was it took me some time, even working with Blackboard. So all those new things. And now it is quite compressed, and we have to learn that. But knowing that, of course, we can produce slides in the near future for many years, of course, is quite different than you say to people, what's only for this year, and then we turn back to the normal situation. I think this is very important, and that is the issue of leadership, I guess. So that's why we need to push the board of the university come with a clear vision why and how we should change.
Peter, may I ask you, you mentioned during the presentation that there is a need for strategic thinking. Could you elaborate on what are the main strategic decisions that leaders in academic institutions will have to make according to the survey?
Yeah, there's one simple one, but I think at the same time a big one, because it is about real estate, so to say. So do we want to make keep on using the lecture halls we have right now on the campus?
Mm.
I think what I call when I talk about the campus, we are a campus-based university, and we want to remain that. We truly believe that the campus is the most important asset we have as a university. But I think that we need to use it in a different way. So the capacity on the space on the campus is scarce. So we need to make choices. Do we want to keep on teaching in the big lecture halls, in which sometimes only 30% of the students show up, and knowing that this type of teaching is not the most effective way of teaching, knowing that online education in that respect is often more effective, because students can rewind, can go back into the video. And when it comes to the knowledge transfer, so what is scarce is the interaction between the teacher and students. That's what John Hattie has called visible learning. So there should be an interaction. I should know, do my students understand what I say, and do the student know what I'm saying? So there should be an interaction. So the interaction between student and teacher is scarce, and that is, I think, we need to focus on when we think about the future of the campus. And the typical learning transfer that can take place online. So there's a quality time issue for the campus, and the quality time for me is the interaction between the student and the teacher, and between the students. That's how I think. So becoming very pragmatic or practically, so it means in the future that we perhaps have to do away with the big lecture hall and redesign those buildings into spaces where people can interact, build study places or meeting places or whatever. If that is a takeaway of this crisis, I think that would be a very interesting, but also very, what's to say, dramatic impact. But I would like to go in this direction.
Very interesting. I can see that Jessica Fiorelli has got a question.
Yes, hi. I'm Jessica from the Lifelong Learning Platform. Very happy to be here, and thank you very much, Peter, for your really insightful presentation. During your presentation, you mentioned that one of the concerns was the inequality issue, and especially for vulnerable students. I was wondering whether any initiatives have been taken in order to counter that and help students who perhaps don't have the same type of equipment or connection needed in order to be able to fully follow and participate in lessons. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for your question. No, I must admit, I haven't seen concrete solutions. I only saw that many respondents have put it as a concern, and I think it's because I know, but it is a concern also already in the offline situation. I know we have a few blind students. It's not easy to find good solution, even with the use of technology. Of course, we find a way, but it is not easy. So I feel very sorry, but I didn't see so far solutions, and that's also why I put it as a concern and not as a solution. So, but perhaps other people have seen some solutions in this on this issue. Sorry.
I'd like to just comment on that point, Jessica. Just, it wasn't really a solution, but what we did right at the beginning in March was our president, he formed teams, like a big task team made up of smaller groups. And we all personally called students across the university, and we have like 33,000 students. And I was on the task force too. And so I called, you know, I probably called 100 students, just asking them the same questions. You know, how are you? Do you have any challenges? And other questions too. And then we had to fill out a form with everything they answered and submit it. And then then that went to another group. I didn't see the summary, but if students were experiencing challenges, the various departments would reach out. So it wasn't really a solution, but at least I think our leadership had a handle on anybody who was struggling, and then, you know, we have counselors who can reach out. So again, it's not a solution, but maybe it's a bridge to finding out what the challenges are and perhaps arranging solutions. Thank you very much, Suzanne. I think, unfortunately, we are getting toward the end of this session. This is the bad news. The good news is that we'll have the privilege to have Peter with us on Friday for the panel discussion. So I really encourage you to join us on Friday. You'll have an opportunity to interact and share with Peter and the other speakers. I'm gonna ask Karme if she can show us the program for the rest of the week. Only 2 days left. As you can see, tomorrow we'll have the pleasure to have Professor Alfredo Soeiro from Porto University and Aido Badefranchi from Geneva University. They will talk about the future of lifelong learning in a digital context. And then on Friday, we'll have the panel discussion. I want to thank you very much again, Peter, for your presentation and your availability today. I mean, I think it was really a great session. At least personally, I learned so much, and I hope we'll be able to get in touch and follow the next steps in your survey to know what will happen. I would, as we say here since the beginning of the week, after the storm.
After the storm. Okay. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you for your questions and your attention very much.
Thank you very much, Peter. Thank you, UCAN team, for the organization of this session. And I see you tomorrow at 12 o'clock. Have a great afternoon.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.